Welcome back to April 13th, 1998 is Raw is War. Stone Cold Steve Austin opens the show calling out the owner of the WWF to a fight. Does Vince McMahon accept? Will it actually happen? We'll find out all that and more. Also, are the gang wars officially over? Or does the WWF find a way to improve them? Kane versus The Undertaker takes an even more creepy turn. It's all of that. It's Analyzing Attitude, episode 26. Go ahead and light the pyro. Welcome into episode 26 of Analyzing Attitude. Jimmy Allen, the good doctor, Mike Sweeney with you here, breaking down this episode of Monday Night Raw from April 13th, 1998. We were a week removed away from the infamous sack tap heard around the world of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Retaliates to Vince McMahon, throwing him in jail from the week prior. What kind of shenanigans are we going to get into, Mike? We'll get into all that, but this is one of those episodes that is kind of infamous for all the wrong reasons.
You know, you just said shenanigans, so I have to pull some shenanigans on you right now, Jimmy. Let it go. Let it go. Jimmy just asked if I could hear his daughters listening to that in the background. I could not, but just so everyone else could hear.
Now you know what's happening in the Allen household today. But speaking of this episode of Raw, Stone Cold Steve Austin opens up the show calling out Vince McMahon and saying that he's going to hijack the entire show and doesn't mind sitting around. And this is kind of repetitive of what we saw 4 weeks ago, where Sergeant Slaughter had to come down and tell Stone Cold what was going to happen tonight. But that doesn't happen tonight in Pittsburgh. He said there's probably somebody in Pittsburgh that's got a nice cold beer for Stone Cold Steve Austin, doesn't mind waiting around. And Austin says the WWF champion is going, he isn't going to wait week to week for Vince McMahon to tell him who his opponent at Unforgiven, which is the next pay-per-view, is going to be, because we still don't know that. And Vince finally comes out, and he comes out with Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson. This is really like the first rendition of the Stooges and what they become. And we're building this army kind of around Vince McMahon to take on Stone Cold Steve Austin, just to build to all of the hurdles that he'll have to eventually overcome. But obviously, Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson become staples in this rendition of Raw from here on forward.
For sure. And I mean, like you said, we get a little bit repetitive. I honestly thought this opening promo drug on a little bit, and that's saying a lot for having Stone Cold and McMahon in the ring. But yes, the Stooges, the infamous Stooges, who are just phenomenal on this going from here on out. Like, just they get their asses whipped nonstop, don't complain, and they're good foil BS for Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon.
He promises Vince, Steve promises Vince that he won't hit him or lay a hand on him. But with that being said, Vince kind of pans around, and then a couple of police officers in riot gear come out as well. And Austin says, I tell you what, I'm going to do with those nightsticks. If you get any closer to me, referencing the nightsticks that the officers are holding, Steve says he wants to know who his opponent Unforgiven is going to be. And Vince says, I haven't made up my mind yet. It takes a great deliberation to decide who that is going to be. Vince says Steve will know soon and tries to walk away, but Austin stops Vince, and Austin says he knows Vince can't stand him, and Austin likes to drink beer and use colorful language, and all that doesn't sit right with Vince McMahon. Neither does this. And he gives the middle finger again. In the last few weeks, Mike, they blurted out. The camera cuts away here. So we kind of referenced this. I think this was episode 19 where we talked about this. They haven't shown Stone Cold Steve Austin actually drinking beer on TV yet. They haven't gone all in with the middle finger, even in the war zone, and especially in that first hour of Raw. WWF is still somewhat playing nice. I think it's really interesting that they're editing or censoring the top star, but they're allowing the Goldust character and the Sable character and all these other characters to kind of push the envelope. But it kind of feels like, well, if USA says we can't do that, it's fine. We got to protect our number one asset right now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it kind of doesn't matter, because I mean, even when Vince is walking out, I remember distinctively one fan right behind Vince when he gets to the roundabout by the steps, very clearly flipping him off and
gives him the finger. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, granted, Vince isn't back there yelling at people to cut it, yada yada
sure.
Yada. But that's
a great point. It would be interesting to find out who is making those calls in the truck while Vince isn't out there, though, right? I mean, that's got to be maybe a Kevin Dunn or Bruce Pritchard thing.
Very much at this time, it has to be one of those two. I mean, my guess would, I mean, even Shane was out there for this segment, so like, they don't. I mean, it has to be either Bruce or Dunn making those picks there, but they're about to lean for all into not blurring it out here in the coming weeks. And before we go on, I was going to ask, was this the first time we got the Attitude Era signature at the start of the show, which was the
yes that's a great call, because I I hadn't thought about that either. And I watched ahead a little bit and actually thought it was that Unforgiven, and then watched this episode and went, oh, there it is. So yeah, that's a great thing to point out. So the Attitude undermarking comes with it as well. But back to the promo. Austin says that McMahon wants the WWF champion to be an Ivy Leaguer like him. He says McMahon wants someone that's polished and has manners. The more that Austin thinks about it, the more he thinks that Vince wants to be the WWF champion. And he asked Vince point blank, do you want to be the WWF champ or not? And a plethora of boos come out from the crowd. Vince asks where this is going, and Austin says, I bet a few weeks ago you wore it over your mansion, your pajamas, and asked your wife if you look good as the world champion, and she probably told you look like a jackass. Steve says this. Vince, as a promoter, loves when his champion defends the title. So tonight on Raw, Austin will defend the title against the one and the only Vince McMahon, and the crowd is so ready for this. The pitch in the building is through the roof. And Austin says, if you want to see Austin versus McMahon, give me a hell yeah, 12,000 hell yeahs here in Philly. And Austin says, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, stealing a line from Vince McMahon. And Vince says, what's the definition of Austin's hard way? And Austin says, well, the easy way is you go handpick an official and fight Stone Cold Steve Austin right now. And he says, the hard way is me beating the hell out of you on live television anyway, and you're going to figure it out regardless. So Vince says, well, Mr. Austin, the hard way seems a little bit too difficult. And so he tries walking away, but Austin says Vince has 30 minutes to figure it out. And Vince isn't going anywhere tonight, so don't try to leave the building because your limo driver's been beat to hell and you got 4 flat tires. He asks one more time for a hell yeah, and even a louder hell yeah for Austin versus McMahon rings out. So Steve Austin kind of getting one up here, but he's taking all exits for Vince McMahon, telling people you're going to want to stick around for the rest of the show because you're getting Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the owner of the WWF.
They know what they're doing, man. They got Sting and Nash on the other channel tonight. What was Nash that huge at the time? It's debatable, but I mean, Sting is like their number one guy, or babyface, I should say. So, I mean, you got to combat it, and what better way than to tease Austin versus McMahon, the thing that everyone wants right now. And we get some facet of that tonight, and we'll get into a little bit later. But it's better to tease the big match that everyone wants. I know Vince isn't the catch can style that most of Steve's opponents, have in their arsenal, but they just want to see Vince get his ass whipped by the one and only Stone Cold Steve.
Well, and we get kind of what I wasn't expecting is Vince doesn't really back down here. They get face to face before he gets pulled away, and I thought that was really interesting because it's pushing the narrative that we're eventually going to get this, and we cut to the commentator's desk, and Jim Ross tells us that there are going to be positions that their camera's going to cover what will happen all night long to kind of follow the story, which is really awesome. Interesting. We'll get into the awesome camera angles we get later backstage. Be Austin versus McMahon. Before we commercial break, we come back. We see Vince backstage, and those cameras I was talking about, Gerald Briscoe and Patterson are telling him what he needs to do, and that he's got to go through with this because he's been letting Steve Austin get away with murder, and that he needs to do this. Which, you would think that the Stooges or people in Vince's corner would be encouraging him not to do this. Where it's like, okay, we've hit the breaking point with this guy. He's beating up the commissioner, he's beating up officials, beating up announcers. And now he's our champion, so we have to deal with him. So we've got to kind of nip this in the bud. I thought that was a cool way to attack it, rather than, oh no, Vince, don't do this.
Very much so, and I think they haven't really done a good job at, people around this time should know who Briscoe and Patterson are, but I didn't at the time, and I
it's
didn't
been
know
almost 18 years. It's been almost 18 years since Pat Patterson was in a ring, and he was way past his prime then. So
right.
I don't think that's
but I mean,
true.
But I mean, they are trying to teach him things. These two were great wrestlers back in the day. So I mean, it's good to have them as like their
Intercontinental champion, baby.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know if they thought ahead far enough, Mike, for guys like us to do this in the future and talk about this. And it kind of feels like Vince McMahon in 1998 is trolling us. But the thing we get next is the Los Boricuas versus the DOA. And my immediate thought was, damn it. Like, why?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I have a lot to talk about with this one. So
I do too. Listen, I actually thought the concept of what this was supposed to be was really cool. And I was like, oh, they're actually going to keep doing this and actually try to do something with it. Thank God. Like, if we're going to get this, at least they're going to like add something of malice to it, because this was supposed to be a chains match where they were going to have both of the Harris brothers chained to two of the Los Boricuas. And it was going to like basically be, there was something added to it. It wasn't just the same old gang war that's going to end in 2 minutes until it ended in 2 minutes. But that's because DX came out. And remember last week, they spiked pile drive chains and they beat down the DOA and they urinated on the motorcycles and all that. But before this match started, we found out that Michael Cole tells us that Owen Hart was going to challenge one of the members of DX tonight. And Michael Cole just kept referring to the Harris brothers during this match as members of DOA, because he couldn't tell them apart. And then DX comes down with 2 minutes into the match, and Billy Gunn and Chains get into it. But the Harris brothers are chained to the Boricuas in the match. Hunter and X-Pac come up and they attack Chains with chairs. The Outlaws hit him with a spike pile driver again on the rampway, and that's kind of becoming their calling card now. It's what they did to Mick Foley. It's what they did to Terry Funk. And now it's what they've done to the DOA members. And DX just gets in the ring, and this weird thing happens where you can literally hear the audio change. And they put in canned booze into the broadcast because the Philly crowd, I know I said earlier in the show, we're in Pittsburgh, we're actually in Philadelphia tonight, are booing or cheering this, but on TV, they're booing the shit out of it. You can see in the crowd, people are doing this. Like, they're cheering what's happening because they're about as sick as this gang war crap as we are. And we've obviously had Savio Vega join Shawn Michaels and Triple H, or take Shawn Michaels' spot at No Way Out of Texas. And they've been kind of hired guns for DX, beating down Owen Hart and things like that. So we tease here that Los Boricuas are joining DX. They even hit the crotch chop, but not so fast, my friend. China hits the low blow, and the DX beats down the Boricuas as well. So it's kind of what we're doing with Stone Cold Steve Austin, with how much can you trust what we're seeing to be real versus what are the motives behind this group. But despite what your ears are telling you, your eyes are telling you something different, because the fans were eating this alive in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the gambit of emotions in this 2 minutes here. So I saw them in the ring. I was like, ugh. Saw they were having a chains match. I was like, okay, at least it's something new and different. You know, it's not quite the dog collar match, but it still can be brutal from time to time. Then that gets ruined when DX comes down. I was like, they were finally going to have something good for these matches, but then it really like dawned on me, because obviously they took out the DOA and then did the swerve and take out Los Boricuas as well. What I think they're doing is they're slowly pushing these guys out that we've been sick of for I don't know how long.
It's almost like the payoff for being sick of it too.
Yes, and they're showing too that they don't need the Boricuas anymore. They have their DX army, so to speak. So I at the end of it, I ended up liking it, but motherfucker, that was. It was such a gamut of emotion.
It was good, man. Like, everything about this was fantastic. Yes. You mentioned Shane McMahon, and obviously he was out earlier in the show, but he's backstage with Vince as we cut back to the back before the break, and he's kind of trying to talk Vince out of it. And we're doing this weird thing with the cameras that I talked about earlier. We're peeking around the corner, and the cameraman's like trying to hide. So it's like, oh, you're not supposed to see this, which is a lot of what was happening on the other channel with DX and the backstage segments and things like that, or not, excuse me, with the NWO on the other channel. And you had, them going into the truck and them beating up guys backstage and things that we'd never really seen before that we're starting to see. And that's kind of what this felt like, just different enough that it felt unique.
Yeah. I mean, but they don't stick with it. That's my only problem. It's like, you can do the peek and like, they're trying to get the footage and see what's going on, like incognito, like, but then they'll probably in a week show them like full on camera on them and be the same. But I mean, I'm okay with them giving a shot on trying new things. I just wish they would be more consistent.
We got a break. We come back in the newly formed Too Much, which would be Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor are in the ring to take on Aguila and Pantera. But Vince walks down to the ring and basically stops the match, kicks the light heavyweights out of the ring, and says, hey, folks, or Vince gets in the ring. JR says, hey, folks, when you own the company, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Vince does. And I really loved the storytelling here that Vince does, because you could feel there's part of him that probably wanted to tell this story for a long time. Because you got to remember, like, go back not even 18 months ago, and Vince McMahon was still the commentator and the guy behind the scenes, the guy that hosted the Saturday show. It was, it was pretty publicly known that Vince McMahon was the owner of the WWF, but he never really asserted himself as that, or that his father had owned the company, or that he was a third generation promoter. And
he was Jack Tunney.
Right. People forget, or Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah.
Vince says for over 50 years, the World Wrestling Federation has been part of his heritage. And it was a shout out kind of to all of the Coliseum video story. For over 50 years,
for sure.
The World Wrestling Federation has been, what's the line? Has been the
World Wrestling Federation for the leader in industrial sports.
Sports and entertainment. Yeah. We're wrestling fans. We remember these things.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what Vince does here. And he says that the heritage from his grandfather and his dad, and he hopes that it carries on to his son, his daughter, and their children after. Ooh, that does not hit as well in 2025. Shout out to Nick Khan, by the way. Apparently not a part of the McMahon heritage. But he says that the World Wrestling Federation has always been about honor and integrity. Qualities that are sorely lacking in our current WWF champion and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin has no honor, he has no morals, and Stone Cold Steve Austin has no integrity. Crowd boos the shit out of this. I know the decision I'm about to make tonight, McMahon says, will not sit well with the people who preceded me. This is true. Like, Vince's dad did not want him to be in the business at all to start with, let alone to become a wrestler, and made him a commentator. But Vince says, but sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And Vince gets a ton of credit for being a heel and a performer and all that. And he deserves all the credit in the world. But the distinct differences, like, he looks like a completely different person when he's addressing the crowd as the owner of the WWF and when he's being the Mr. McMahon character. It's almost scary how much he's this, like, one person, but looks like two completely different human beings. It's really uncanny here.
It's the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde effect, man. And he did it. He did it better than anybody else. Like, 1 minute this person, 1 minute the other. I mean, maybe the exception Bray Wyatt, but he was doing that on purpose. Like, that was his gimmick. But I mean, it's pretty awesome. And like you said, like, he got the jump on his dad's company. Yeah,
totally different, man. It's incredible.
He got the spot in his dad's company because their announcer at the time quit because he didn't like his payoff, and he needed a guy, and he just looked at Vince and said, you're doing it. And I wonder if that really snowballed down. I mean, I would like to think that Vince would have got in anyways, because it's just it's what he wants to do. But who knows if that guy didn't quit, then.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know, like, Vince McMahon didn't know his father for the first 14 years of his life, and grew up in a trailer park in North Carolina, and then eventually met his dad and was brought into the tutelage of his father and let him grow up in the business and things like that. So, like, there is a big what if there. And it's not like it was this global entity at the time. It was the local regional promotion that Vince and Kennedy McMahon really took and ran with.
Right.
But Vince, back to the promo for a second, addresses the crowd. So he goes, in answer to the question, will I fight Stone Cold Steve Austin in this very ring tonight? The answer is, oh, hell yeah. And the crowd goes nuts for this. And in my opinion, I mean, with Briscoe and Patterson and they're high-fiving on the outside and handshaking, and the commentators saying, we can't believe this. This really feels like, okay, we're all in on the Vince McMahon / Mr. McMahon character.
Yes. And, like, I think everyone in the crowd, everyone on TV thought we're going to get swindled and be like, no, he's going to say no, but he'll have somebody else up his sleeve. But especially with the kind of conviction in his voice when he goes, oh, hell yeah.
Like, he wants a piece of him, yeah.
It's like, oh, damn, maybe.
Listen, he's been sack tapped by this guy. He's got a suit ripped up by this guy. He's been stunnered by this guy twice. This guy has taken his TV show hostage.
And we haven't even gotten to the fun shit yet.
Yeah, we're not even there yet. I thought this was really funny, though, because as Vince is walking up the stage, you could see the light heavyweight still in the ring, and I thought this was by accident.
No,
did nobody tell them to go away?
We're gonna get to that because I'll just get it out of the way now. Between this segment and what's about to happen, complete burial of the lightweight division.
Oh yeah. So Vince tells us they're not important, and then somebody else shows us that. So Vince is walking up the ramp, and the light heavyweights kind of just get back into the ring. And then the lights go out. And we've become accustomed to this. And Michael Cole even says as much. He goes, oh, no, not Kane. Come on. But then the bell tolls. Taker comes out and beats the hell out of Aguila Pantera, chokeslams Scott Taylor, and gives him a tombstone. Apparently, Brian Christopher maybe bought the dead man a bottle of Jack that day because he gets away without being touched. And Taker grabs the mic, and this is time for our weekly. This is exactly what the Undertaker said moment segment. Here is the verbatim, exactly what he says. Kane, it's time your big brother shows you what evil is all about. No longer are you the hunter, but you've become the hunted. Now I can feel your presence in the building. This night will go on in eternity until you show your face. It's time, Kane. Come confront the darkness. Taker's music plays. We cut to a commercial break. While Taker is waiting for his little brother, we just cut to Vince backstage. Like Taker's just in the ring, and we go back to Vince backstage.
It's like, no, we cut backstage, and then we go back to the ring, and the light heavyweights are still in the ring. No, I'm just
but Taker's just standing there, and we just got to Vince McMahon in the back, and the Stooges are like showing him how to counter the the stunner. And before we went to the break, before the light heavyweight match, Vince was obviously gave us he's going to fight Stone Cold Steve Austin line, but Jim Ross tells us that he's going to go backstage and prevent Vince from doing this. And Jim Ross is back there, and Vince shoos away Shane, tells him to go get his gym bag out of the car. And he tells Jim Ross to go back to the commentator's desk. So this is 45 minutes into the show, and it's really all Vince versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. As we mentioned, before we cut to backstage, The Undertaker was still in the ring. We come back, and Jeff Jarrett is announcing his country music concert, Unforgiven. Taker's just gone, I guess. So there's that. I don't know what that was all about, but here's Jeff Jarrett. He's going to perform a concert with his band that he had before Road Dogg stole his gimmick. And there's flyers falling from the ceiling, and he's going to take on Taka Michinoku here.
More burial of the lightweight division.
Yeah, who's still technically the WWF light heavyweight champion. You wouldn't know that because he doesn't come out with the belt here. But this was decent. It was a decent match. But the one thing that's significant about this match is this is the first time I really remember the cutaway promo. So the match is going on. Jeff Jarrett's going to take on Steve Black. Yeah, Steve Blackman at Unforgiven, and we cut to Steve Blackman, who's talking backstage and basically just continue to bury the light heavyweights because we don't mention Taka Michinoku here at all. But talks about how he's going to take on Steve Blackman, and Taka gets the upper hand in this match, and he goes to hit the outside dive, but Tennessee Lee cuts him off. And then the three guys from last week show up again, and we get introduced to Club Kamikaze, which is their official name. And they leave Taka laying again after some really high-impact moves, and they escape through the crowd again. But Jeff Jarrett puts Taka in the figure four leg lock at the end of it to make us remember he's a heel, I guess. That was really weird. But there's some real intrigue around what this Club Kamikaze thing could be. And yes, we've kind of buried the light heavyweight division, but we've also added this kind of intrigue, who done it, who are they going to be type thing to the label.
Speaking of intrigue, this Club Kamikaze,
which is not problematic at all.
Is that what Kaintai means in Japanese?
I don't know, but I have a feeling that that's clearly the case.
Because at least Kaintai, it doesn't sound like it's offensive, but
yeah, right.
But who knows? Yeah, just more burial. The reason I said I hated the Steve Blackman thing, which I wouldn't have cared, and I'm nitpicking here, but they've done it before where they show somebody's interviewing or somebody's remarks while they're in the middle of the match. But JR is having a full blown on interview with him during the match. It's like, to me, that's one thing that again, nitpicking. It's so disrespectful to the people in the ring.
It's just an insult to the guys putting on the match. Yeah. I agree. And Jim Ross, being the purist he has, hated this.
Right.
You can hear it in his voice.
They're building up to this Jeff Jarrett thing with Steve Blackman, and he doesn't come out during this match. He comes out later, but what are we doing here?
Really weird way.
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin is backstage and cuts a standalone promo where he's sitting in the backstage and he says, it makes sense that Vince decided to fight him. He said he was going to whip his ass anyway, so why not do it in front of the world? So, hey, Steve, good point.
All right.
But we cut back to the Stooges and Vince again. And this is prime Stooges, man. And they're just showing Vince how to do a toe hold and how the ultimate counter to the stunner and just giving him all the best ideas. Well, Vince is just looking at them like, why did I hire you idiots? This is comedy gold, man. This was fantastic.
Yes. I mean, and I can't wait. I mean, God rest Pat Patterson's soul and Gerald Briscoe. Hope he's still doing well. But, you know, this is the start of a very tumultuous relationship with the Stooges and Austin because he wallops the piss out of them for the next year. Chair shots, potatoes, stunners. They just take it all. And, you know, they're comedy gold. And we even see that more with the hardcore division later on.
Absolutely. Speaking of hardcore, Farooq comes out and cuts a promo, and he's debuting his new music here, which sounded like an exact ripoff of DX's theme, by the way. He calls out The Rock, and he said that Rocky cracked his ribs and bruised his body, but it takes more than that to kick his ass. Farooq says he gave the rest of the nation a chance of a lifetime. This is how they repaid him. He said he's going to give them another chance, a chance to come out and get their asses whipped. The nation shows up, and they're debuting their new music here as well, which I think is actually the best rendition of the nation's music. And he says that Farooq is still half ignorant from the beating he took last week. And he says, hold The Rock's belt. And he hands it to Rock, holds the Intercontinental Championship to Mark Henry. And The Rock says, he's got a big hand. By the way. Yeah. He says he's got a big hand. And you know what that means? He laughs at himself, by the way. He said he's going to lay the smackdown on Farooq tonight. Farooq gives the nation the salute and Rock laughs. But then Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock appear and they chase the nation down to the ring. And then we just get this big pull apart. But
sorry, can I give you one that just made me laugh?
When the white guys doing the Black Panther salute. Yeah,
that too. That was already cringe enough. But
yeah,
when they chase the nation down, and obviously Farouk's in the ring, they're in the middle, and then we got Shamrock and Blackman at the top of the ramp. They run past Kama, didn't even bother him, but just shot past him and just started beating up the other nation members. It's like, did Charles Wright not get the memo to maybe run?
Yeah, listen, maybe he's already offering hose to avoid fights.
That's right. I just laughed. It was like, well, you missed one.
Yeah. Well, this is already more successful than any of the gang war stuff we've done over the last 3.5 months, or like 18 months.
For sure.
It's already way more successful. People are way more into it. It's got more validity to it. We're introducing championships, things like that. This isn't much. It's already better than 90% of the stuff we've covered through 26 episodes of this podcast.
Yes. And giving you kind of a heads up, I'm not going to be so nice on this episode, but I feel like they're plucking the weeds out of the shit that
they're planting seeds too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get the Quebecers versus Chainsaw Charlie and a mystery opponent here. And Mike, I don't know if I read into this wrong or I just maybe didn't understand the premise of the promo last week. Did you get the premise that Chainsaw Charlie that Cactus Jack was leaving Chainsaw Charlie at the end of that promo last week?
I didn't get that.
He told us that he's been trying to call him and get a hold of him, so he must be really hurt because he didn't answer.
That's what I was saying. It's like that's what I was thrown off too. It's like he was supposedly out. I mean, he did have a hell of a welter on the, his
right, but Mick Foley never said anything about the end of this tag team or him and Terry Funk are splitting. I mean, obviously he had the personality split thing with himself.
Right.
And talking about how Cactus Jack was going away, but Chainsaw Charlie comes out and says he got to find himself a new partner here. And he's officially Terry Funk again. He's not even Chainsaw Charlie.
Yeah.
He's wearing the Funk You shirt, and he said that he had to find a new partner.
Yep.
Because Cactus Jack turned his back on him last week and turned his back on the fans, which, okay, that second part's true, but there was never any, I don't think he said one negative thing about Terry Funk last night.
No, not one. And I if I remember right, what they eventually do, they could have done without this tag match. They should have kept Terry Funk off until he was in the ring with Mick Foley again. I didn't get this. This match did nothing for me.
It was good. The in-ring action was really good.
It was all right. It was just a mosh throwing pairing of people, and
that's kind of every Quebecers match up until this point, by the way.
So I mean, we are here, so we got this match going.
We get the official introduction to Too Cold Scorpio, and again, we're back in Philadelphia. This is the home of ECW, and the ECW chants ring out because Too Cold Scorpio is Terry Funk's partner And the EC dub chants ring out through all this. I thought this match was fantastic. We get the 450 from Scorpio. We get some high flying action from the Quebecers. Scorpio win this match. Jim Ross tells us that Too Cold Scorpio is finally getting a chance in WWF. Like, Jim, this guy's been on the roster for 16 months. Like, what?
No,
like,
that was Flash Funk.
Fair enough. Something else that's getting the chance on the WWF roster that probably doesn't need to continue, but it's going to be here for a while, is Luna Vachon comes out and cuts a promo. And this is nothing against Luna. She was obviously very good on the mic, but this is just a way to promote the
evening gown
match at Unforgiven. As this is also the first thing as the opening for the War Zone, by the way, because Luna comes out dressed as a pirate and says that Unforgiven, the anticipation for the evening gown matchup is worse than PMS, which nobody reacts to, by the way. And then she calls out Sable, and here comes Goldust dressed as Sable. Luna beats him down and takes the dress off him. Then the real Sable runs down, and we get another pull apart. Now the crowd is going nuts for this, and they're going nuts for Sable. Like, she's getting Stone Cold Steve Austin level responses at this time, but like what you just said about the last match, this did nothing for me.
No, it just building tickets, and let's call a spade here. Everyone wants to see Sable for 2 reasons, and they're both identical reasons.
They're pretty big reasons.
Yeah. They're very expensive reasons. Probably for Rena anyways. But, God bless Luna.
She probably didn't pay for those. If I had to probably make an educated guess.
Mark Merrow got it? I don't know.
I think she had them before.
We'll get him on the show. Maybe you can ask him. I'm just kidding, Mark.
Mark, get back to me about my DMs. Speaking of big deals, this next match isn't one of them. That was a bad transition. I'm sorry. We get Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman versus the new Midnight Express. And listen, the Shamrock and Blackman combo intrigues me a lot more than maybe any other tag team on this roster right now, outside of probably the New Age Outlaws. But Dan Severn is out with the NWA here, and we get Shamrock and Severn squaring off in the ring, which was a massive deal for anybody that was a fight fan at this time.
Yes.
They fought twice in the UFC and split the series 1-1. And there was a lot of intrigue around, would this match ever happen again? There was a lot of controversy around the way the second match ended, and there was legit bad blood between these two at this time in real life. So the fact that we even got this was a massive tease. Now, spoiler alert, it doesn't amount to anything good anyway, but we're like, this match was pretty good. I mean, listen, Bombastic Bart and Bodacious Bob are obviously terrible gimmicks and don't last very long.
Great talent, though.
But they, like, all 4 of these guys could clearly go.
Right.
And while this is going on, we're talking about the main event on commentary. Jerry Lawler says that Vince McMahon would make a perfect WWF champion, and Jim Ross says that the WWF isn't the company that the old guys wrestle for, which I thought was a great line.
That's down south.
Yeah, but this match gets to be a mess and it gets tossed out, and we're not getting any clean finishes, folks. Like, there just hasn't been much of a wrestling show on this wrestling show, which is kind of where the attitude goes for a little while. But the little bit that we do get, the action's actually pretty good. So this ends up being nothing, but we're definitely teasing the NWA heavyweight champion / UFC heavyweight champion, and Dan Severn could be taking on Ken Shamrock in a WWF ring, and that's a huge deal.
Well, 2 things for the modern day, or at least, what was it, 5-6 years ago, the analogy that I'm going to put for Severn and Shamrock, which was when Cain Velasquez came to WWE, squared off with Lesnar again, didn't mount to anything good, anyways. Like you said,
but honestly, man, I don't even think that does it justice, because Cain Velasquez in the UFC beat the shit out of Brock.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was very one-sided. These two had 2 matches that were basically pretty both close to split decisions.
But both of them in the MMA world had big beef, big story, big intrigue.
Yeah,
nothing in WWF, whatever it is. And I'll venture to say the Shamrock Severn blow off was better than this, and that ain't saying much, or than the Lesnar and Velasquez one. And
for
that's
sure.
Not saying much. I lost my train of thought. Let's go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, it almost kind of felt like they said, okay, well, we saw what Tyson brought to the equation. We don't really have Tyson money right now. How do we kind of duplicate that on a lower level, but garner the same kind of interest. That's how it rang through to me.
Boxing was so much bigger than MMA at that time.
Oh yeah,
so there's no. I didn't think you were gonna.
I mean, we're 10 years away from Griffin Bonner #1, where really we saw the explosion of UFC. So yeah, I agree. But the Headbangers are up next. We're supposed to get another tag team match. The Headbangers come out, lights go out again, and here comes Taker. Taker comes out, kills both Headbangers. Kane and Paul Bear come out, and Bear says that Kane won't fight Taker tonight, but he'll meet him next week, but not in the ring. They want to meet at gravesite that Kane just destroyed last year, and where his parents are trying to rest in peace. So we're going to get the Undertaker versus Kane in a graveyard next week. I'm all in. Give me that.
Yeah, and honestly, even earlier in the show, Taker's promo was definitely the best one he's cut since we've been doing this.
Close, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't great, but
it was much better than it has been.
We saw this when he became the Dead Man again in the 2000s. The less he says, the better it is, because his mystique carries it enough. But
we get another Val Venus vignette next, so we go from graveyards and zombies to porn stars. This is so edgy, man. Like
that's such a hard segue.
Yes, this is like prime attitude era stuff, man. We get naked women being blurred out, walking around behind Val Venus is being rubbed down by 2 cast members of his new movie Lust in Space, where Val says when he gets to the WWF, he's going to give it give it his all, inch by inch. And then we get the dress over. Val Venus is coming.
Thank God they just kept the normal word of coming. But with Nash being on the main event, I would like to say something that he quoted in an interview. He's like, this is why they ended up taking over WCW. Not because of this, but he's like, basically, let me tell you this. We have standards and practices in our creative meetings. They have Jenna Jameson in theirs. Wonder which way that demographics.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks away from that, by the way. Yeah. Owen Hart is supposed to take on Triple H at Unforgiven, but up next we're gonna get Owen Hart versus a member of DX. And Hunter said that to determine who was going to take on Owen Hart tonight, he asked for a 500-word essay. He says that Road Dogg wrote his on a pack of zigzags. X-Pac could have entered his into an adult magazine, and Shiny can't face him. So naturally, he's going to take on Billy Gunn tonight, but Owen Hart comes down. He's not alone. Here comes LOD 2000. Mm-hmm. And this is like, we get Billy Gunn versus Owen Hart. This is clearly going to be a masterclass of how to do things in the ring.
Yep.
Until some guy in the crowd throws a rubber chicken into the ring. Like, of all the things that you could have done in WWE, like, don't ever do this. Don't be this guy.
Especially at the end of a main event of WrestleMania 39, when your guy just lost.
I don't know if it gets any more attitude era than a guy throwing a rubber chicken into a WWF ring during a match.
What a cock!
Yeah,
that's all I really got. This was a paint by numbers match.
How did I not see that coming?
But it is what it is, and the chicken,
Speaking of chickens, this is a really weird ending to this match because Owen Hart gets a roll up and then runs off with LOD and Sonny. But why would the faces run away here? If LOD is around ringside, like, why would you run off? Like, are you chicken shit? Like, what is the point of it? I didn't understand why the faces were turning and running here.
I wonder if, I know Triple H isn't have that much pull behind the scenes yet. Granted, Shawn was very tight with Vince. Triple H is Shawn's best friend, so maybe he does a little bit, but I wonder if there's a lot of, Vince, DX is cool. It's going to be like the NWO. We can't be the cowards here, which, come SummerSlam.
Well, you didn't even do that. Like, get the loss and then walk up the rampway while the cameras focus on the faces. Like, it was just really weird to have them run away.
It was, there's a lot of questionable shit in the show, and that's one of them.
It's main event time. Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to take on Vince McMahon. And Vince comes out first, and he's doing some shadow boxing warm-ups with Shane while he's trying to talk him out of it. And then Austin comes down, and we get the square up. And Austin gets face-to-face with the owner of the WWF, and then Vince slaps the shit out of him. Mm-hmm. And right before they're about to lock up, Vince says, whoa, grabs the microphone, says, remember what you said? You said you could beat me with one arm tied behind your back, which Austin said in the opening promo. They legitimately tie Austin's arm behind his back here. Mm-hmm. And Austin grabs the microphone and says, "Tell me if you think I could whoop Vince McMahon's ass with one arm tied behind my back. Give me a hell yeah." Vince a hell yeah. And then Vince asks the same same question. The crowd gives a whole hell no to Vince McMahon. They're getting ready to lock up again. And then Dude Love music hits here. And remember what we said earlier about the Terry Funk segment. Cactus Jack told us to say goodbye to Cactus Jack last week and was resentful that while he was laying in the steel cage 3 weeks ago, the crowd was chanting for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, Dude Love and Steve Austin were tag team champions about a year ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time for somebody to bring a little bit of peace to the war zone, Dude says. He says, Steve, I know you, and I know the plan to put some. I know the plan is to put some heavy duty booty to Uncle Vinny. I don't know what that means. That's what he said. But he has to veto this, and the crowd is shitting on this.
Yep.
He says because Vince writes the checks to Dude Love. Vince shoves Mick to the ground, and because he's still playing up to the fact that he wants to fight Stone Cold.
Yep.
And then Dude Love says you made the biggest mistake, and he goes to put the mandible claw on Vince, and Austin tries breaking it up, and Dude Love hits the mandible claw on Steve Austin. And then he hits the butterfly dance and then starts beating Steve Austin down. The Stooges are pulling Vince away, and he's acting like he wants to get back in there. And Austin kind of fires back up, but still has one hand tied behind his back. So Mick Foley puts the claw on him again. The last thing we see is them brawling on the outside, and then Mick applying the mandible claw to Steve Austin on the announcer's desk, and them not delivering on the first promise of Austin versus McMahon. Now, this is on Raw, and we're building up to a pay-per-view, but kind of feels like we're getting the idea of who Steve Austin's opponent's going to be at Unforgiven, and they're going to have to run this back at some point.
Yes, and we are just a hair away, under a year away from the actual Vince versus Austin pay-per-view match. And I liked Foley being his first challenger out of the gate because everyone knows once you win the title at Mania, you're going to have a run-of-the-mill feud with probably the next in line heel, which doesn't do that next in line heels any favor because they got to lose. So pulling Foley out of the face tag division, and he has 3 personalities, it was the best way to do it because everyone knows Dude Love is everyone's least favorite character of Foley's because the other 2 are just hardcore and crazy, and everyone loves that. It's really hard to make them heels. So let's just bring out the.
I agree, but like you could just see how much Mick's not into this. Like you could tell he was thoroughly enjoying the tag team stuff. And would he rather be in the main event? Probably, but
right.
His just delivery here, like you can almost tell how much he's just like forcing this out. I agree with everything you just said, but like I just don't know if Mick was the right guy for this.
I mean, possibly. I mean, but Rock, you can't. They're building no Rock in Austin already. Triple H, he's trying to rebuild his group. There's not really a whole lot of big heels you could go with, and I mean, you're right. But this is also kind of the start of a long-term story that culminates at Survivor Series later this year, which is Foley is Vince's friend now, and this is what Vince wants. And really, if you know about it, like everyone listening, Dude Love was Mick's persona that he made up before he was famous, did backyard wrestling. Vince liked that and wanted it on screen. So it's kind of full circle. I get what you're saying for sure. It's kind of like a dud a little bit that it's Dude Love, not Cactus Jack. But I think that they were just trying to make the crowd hate his character. And that's my.
They did a great job. That's exactly what they got out of it. Yeah, well, it's time to grade the show. Mike, give us your analysis on the entire episode of Monday Night Raw from April 13th, 1998. How do you grade it?
C. And the Vince or the Austin stuff was good. They like we talked about, they planted seeds, they pulled some weeds. Like, not great show, but what was good about it was good.
Yeah, I gave it a B- for that reason. Like I like. We talked about this with Brian Alvarez a couple months ago. It's like what you remember last, and this just kind of fell flat for me. And it felt very finger poke of doom-esque, and I don't think he gives enough credit for. It helps because it led to something, and it wasn't just a fall off of the cliff. And they build on it to your point, but like just watching it in this moment, like I'm trying to put myself back in April 13th, 1998. I would not have been. I wasn't happy about this outcome because I wanted to see Steve Austin beat the hell out of Vince McMahon, which we eventually get time and time again, but it felt like it was under promised and under delivered.
And remember, in that Unforgiven match, we do get Vince get some kind of major comeuppance. So
absolutely,
can't wait to keep going on with that one.
Yeah, so that's the next pay-per-view, and we're hoping to have an announcement for who our guest for the pay-per-view is going to have maybe by the end of the week. We'll try to keep you posted on all of that as well. Don't forget to check out our next video. We're going to break down the top 5 finishers of all time. This has been Analyzing Attitude. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us on YouTube. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.